What's going on, everybody? This is Professor Crypto Banana, and today I am honored to have, for the first time on camera, Jake Pahor. You may see him on Twitter. He's up and coming. He does a lot of threads regarding crypto and also macroeconomics. So thanks for coming on to the show.
No worries. It's great to be here.
So it seems like you're really focused on the Twitter side of things, right? But we're going to assume that the audience right now is more on the YouTube side. So why do you spend so much time focused on Twitter, especially relating to crypto?
I think for me, Twitter is just such a great platform for learning. I initially started off in Twitter just, following crypto accounts and being a more of a passive kind of absorber of knowledge. But, I took the decision earlier this year to kind of dive into a bit more of a creator role. And for me, Twitter was probably the easier way to start off. I can write things and publish them on Twitter without having to, produce videos and all that. So it was probably more the natural progression for me to start up a Twitter account. And I really enjoy writing and research and putting my thoughts and ideas out there into the world. So it was kind of a natural, I guess, progression for me to start off on Twitter. And I've definitely thought about, potentially in the future, what a YouTube sort of channel would look like, but that may be a bit further down the track for me. But yeah, I definitely am active, as a viewer on YouTube. So obviously love all your stuff, of course. And, I've got a couple of other accounts that I follow and watch. But I think it kind of goes hand in hand, the YouTube and Twitter. For me, they're the two, two go-tos to find out.
Why did you decide to put your writing skills towards Twitter specifically?
I think it's probably the biggest audience for crypto. It just feels like that's where the hive of activity is, where all the sort of the thought leaders are in the space. And that was where I guess I gravitated towards, because I saw that that culture and the large sort of following that people got through Twitter. It's got the biggest sort of reach in terms of where you can take yourself.
How do you find information the best? Because sometimes I go on Twitter and it feels like, what am I looking at? This is like doom scrolling. There's some weird stuff, people arguing back and forth. And I question myself, is it worth the time? So where do you look to educate yourself and see the most value?
Yeah, Twitter can be quite an interesting place. So it's got a huge amount of information. I guess when you're starting out, especially, it's hard to sift through and find good information. I guess one of my top tips is definitely to, have a really strong core group of Twitter people that you follow and read through, so you can get lost in the noise quite easily. I look for accounts that are providing really good value, deep research. Not particularly, they're not sort of shilling every coin under the sun, but really providing quite thoughtful pieces, and you can tell that they're putting the effort into their work as well. But yeah, I've definitely been in that place where I doom scrolling and you get caught up in the rabbit hole for sure. So I think you have to be very tactful about how you approach Twitter. And it is a resource at the end of the day. It's got massive amounts of information, but you can get information overload. So I guess that's what I'm trying to provide through my account, is cutting through the noise a bit and providing really good quality research and updates on the broader sort of crypto space as well as the macro outlook.
Do you feel like your audience likes the macro along with the crypto, or do they only provide, or are they only seeking the crypto?
I think I've got some good engagement on some of the macro threads that I've done, but predominantly I'd say it is very crypto focused. For me, I think the macro itself is really interesting to me. I wanted to learn about it. I think I was reflecting on this the other day around my investing journey, and during we saw the massive kind of V-shaped recovery, and everyone basically was a winner. If you put money into the markets, you won. But if you took that same approach for the bear market that we're seeing this year, you probably potentially would have gotten quite badly wrecked, basically, because you've got continual bear market and conditions are changed. So for me, it was trying to understand how the macro affects the wider markets. So you can't just, provide a blanket rule between bear markets. And, understanding the macro is such a key part these days in any investing, whether it be crypto or equities or real estate. It's all intertwined now. It's one big machine. So I like to try and provide that as more of I guess my core focus is on the crypto space, but have, the macro lens where I can also provide hopefully some value there through research, putting some information out there.
Do you think a lot of crypto people are interested in the macro? Because I agree. I think it goes hand in hand and is really fundamental to understand. But do you think that a lot of crypto people actually do take the time to look at the macro side and see the value?
I think definitely now, but my feeling that during 2021, it was definitely less thought about because, we were in the bull market and it was kind of like, I guess, DeFi summer and everyone was, trying to find the next big thing. And no one was thinking about the macro. But as soon as things turn bad, you want to know why. So I think definitely this year, I've seen a big focus, a lot of people, big accounts, talking about the macro, which is really important and definitely more of a shift. You've still got your sort of think people that focus, solely on crypto, which is fine as well. But I've definitely seen a shift over this year where people are starting to, become more knowledgeable and, they're talking about Fed meeting minutes and stuff like that, which is, in 2021, no one would have really cared at all about about it. So yeah, it's interesting to see the shift in people's thinking. Yeah, I think that's definitely driven by the market and trying to position yourself for the next, I guess, next bull run.
Do you think people are still going to remember this in the next bull run and say, no, I still need to make sure I'm watching the macroeconomics and I understand this? Or do you think people, as soon as the bull run returns, people are going to say, out the window, we're back in it. I'm just going to focus on crypto.
I hope that people still remember it for sure. I think naturally, yeah, you will see people that forget to a certain extent and get caught up in it. But one of the things I guess I want to do is share my lessons and the pitfalls that I've fallen into over the last few years to try and guide people in the right direction, hopefully, as well as sharing what I'm doing. So I think we'll see the next generation of crypto much more clued into the macro, which will be great. But you will naturally see a lot of new people that enter as well that probably won't have that solid foundation. Hopefully, we see people learn.
Or at least some of the people that have endured this bear market remind the new people that arrive, like, hey, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, make sure you
don't get too ahead of yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to see the people that were probably in crypto a few cycles before us, and we're learning from them. I want to provide that same benefit to the next generation that come through.
So how do you create your content? Like, what is your strategy? Because I see that you're posting up every single day. I'm sure that there is certain strategies in order to build up an audience because there's a lot of information out there, right?
Yep. Yeah, I like to try and post every day, even if it's just a single tweet or a couple of interesting things that I found. I do like to schedule. I found that's a really good tool for time management. Putting some time aside at the end of the day or the start of the day where you sit down, for half an hour or 15 minutes even, and just remove all distractions and just write your thoughts. I think consistency is really important for Twitter, especially if you want to grow your following. People, if you aren't posting regularly, it's hard to gain that momentum. But the biggest thing that I've found is definitely for engagement is longer form threads, especially in the crypto space. So I think you've got your foundation of tweets, which will be I guess just single tweets or maybe two tweets in a thread, but the full detailed threads are what drives the big engagement I've found. So you also need to dedicate some time during the week to to write a longer form type thread, a bit more of a detailed deep dive or some thoughts. as well. So you've got to balance the both, and it's definitely, yeah, it can definitely be time consuming. But if you have a good time sort of schedule and dedicate even half an hour or 15 minutes a day, you can do a lot for sure.
So you did mention that it does take time. What is the value that it's providing you, Jake? Because obviously, if you're going to be dedicating so much time, there has to be something in it for you.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely thought about that a lot because it is a lot of time. And I think for me, it's about growing my brand, putting out free information as much as possible, and then growing my follower base and growing their trust as well. It just creates opportunities. Like, if I hadn't started Twitter, I wouldn't be talking to you, and I wouldn't be, creating friends as well. Like, people that we interact with. For me, it's about gaining knowledge as well of the space. So the more information that you put out there, the more good that you'll get back as well. So I've definitely found, ever since I started becoming more of an active Twitter participant, I've been creating connections and learning so much more. So I think overall it's definitely worth it for me. Twitter definitely isn't everyone's cup of tea. Yeah, I see massive value in creating a personal brand and growing your sort of knowledge base as well.
Do you know where you want to take your personal brand, or are you just going with the flow of saying, we'll see where this goes?
Yeah, I think at this stage, I haven't got a really clear plan about where the end goal is. I'm focusing at the moment on writing as much as I can in terms of project research, and doing some threads on some of the macro stuff, but predominantly some smaller crypto projects that I've been researching. I think that's where my interests lie at the moment, and I'll keep pursuing that and see how that goes. But yeah, I don't really know exactly where the end goal will be, but yeah, I know that crypto is where I want to be long term. So if I can continue to put in the work each week, I can hopefully achieve a lot in a few years' time.
Do you ever get discouraged now that it is a bear market and the interaction and the building of the brand is a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, I think a little bit. It's actually it's interesting for me because I've only really started posting in Twitter, probably 6 months ago, which was in the bear market. So I haven't really got a yardstick to compare
You
to.
know how much your audience can grow at an accelerated rate in a bull run, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like kind of like rubbing my hands ready, getting ready for that. But like, yeah, it's definitely a challenge for sure because I think engagement is really difficult. But it's a great time to learn and a great time to network because a lot of the hype and the craziness has died down from the bull market. So you get to focus a little bit more on great projects that are kind of still around and building innovative type stuff. Whereas, in the bull market, you do get lost a bit in all the hype. So it's good and bad. There's a silver lining, I guess, that I see is that, it's a perfect time to start because you've got less distractions. The followers that you gain in the bear market will be, what drives you for the next bull market, basically. And they're going to be people that, if they've stuck around this long, they're obviously in it for the long haul. So they're going to be great, really good followers that will stick with you. So yeah, I think there's pros and cons for sure.
Indeed. Yeah. Because you could have, let's say, 3 million, but if it's just hype based, do you really want that? Or would you prefer to actually have very loyal, dedicated followers and audience and people that you network with and connect with?
Yeah, definitely. You could have a couple of, 20 followers that are your core group that are absolute, like, legends in the space. And that would far outweigh, 1,000 potential, people that are drifting in and out of the space and not really kind of in it for the long haul. So yeah, it's good to focus on building those good followers as well. People that kind of, you'll naturally find that you'll connect with people that are of similar interests as well, which is good.
Give a little bit of a background as to how you got into crypto and what value you're providing, because a lot of people could take a look, let's say, and say, okay, Jake, how long have you been in the space? Should I really follow you as opposed to somebody else?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I only started kind of diving into crypto probably April or May last year. I must admit, I probably did get, sucked into the, the hype of the bull run, and everyone was talking about Bitcoin and crypto in general. So I was naturally kind of curious about it. So I started doing research and into the space, and I think immediately, almost within a couple of days, I realized this is this is incredible, like technology, and potentially going to change the way we think about finance, and even wider sort of ramifications. So my natural kind of like engineering mind just was like whizzing with ideas. But it was also I probably did get sucked in as well from a hype point of view. So 2021 for sure was a big learning, in terms of the volatility and just getting an understanding for the space, really, what's out there, and trying to build my foundations. I think through 2021, I've definitely learned a huge amount, especially around the macro. So I think the value that I give and what I want to sort of give to my followers is, I'm not going to be the expert that's been in the space for 10 years, but I can help share my journey along the way, with sort of like-minded people, really focusing in on some detailed research and good projects. That's probably what I would like to give value-wise. And as we grow, we become more experienced, and every day you learn something. You want to share that back to your followers as well.
Well, we're glad that you're in the space and that you're not promoting some random coins that are completely garbage. So, such as I don't even know what we would say, like banana, rocket, inu, bubble coin, whatever it may be. So I'm always happy to see people that are providing a lot of great value in educational content. So thank you. I'm sure the audience thinks the same way. So with you learning the ropes, figuring out everything, do you sometimes feel that you have imposter syndrome? Do you ever write out a huge thread, you do a lot of research, and then all of a sudden you're scrolling, you see somebody that is truly an expert post their stuff, you're like, who am I to post up and give all this findings?
Yeah, for sure. I get that all the time. Like, I think it's natural for you to think that, like, yeah, you see all these people on Twitter, and there's so many incredibly smart people that you just think, well, what am I going to actually be able to do? But I think even just starting, starting off, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. That was definitely the big thing for me, was just being just actually getting started in it. Just starting an account and start posting. It's never going to be perfect straight up. It's you're going to take your time to develop your craft, and that's the biggest tip, I think, for anyone that's thinking about it. Just start and try, and don't be afraid of being wrong, or putting something out there that isn't great, because everyone's been on this journey. No one starts as an expert, so you have to start somewhere. But I still get that for sure, and I'm sure I will for my entire crypto career, is a imposter syndrome, where you always think, okay, well, am I actually really an expert?
I would assume that starts to go away if you put in a lot of time researching, and then also a lot of people look to you for your opinions and explanation, because then you realize, oh, I am the expert, because, well, in this grand scheme of things, there's very few people at that level. I put in the time, so now this is justified.
Yeah, for sure. I think eventually you'll get to that point where you are one of the thought leaders in the space, which is definitely what I strive to be. I'm on that journey and trying to put in that work to try and understand the space and provide good value. So you do feel a lot more confident. You know what to look for. Kind of your foundations are solid, so you can fall back on that a lot easier. So you grow that. That confidence will grow over time as well.
So what would be your advice for somebody that is looking at Twitter and now they're thinking, okay, I do want to do an account, but they don't want to post, they don't want to contribute, they just literally want to monitor the space and try to absorb a little bit of information? Any tips as to how they can go about it and find their way through the Twitter space?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great way to start off as a passive, passive account where you're just, trying to absorb information. I think the best advice is just find some really key accounts, like people that resonate with your thoughts, people that are putting out information that you really kind of find, oh, that makes a huge amount of sense to me and, resonates with you. Follow them, put them on your alerts. Don't try and get, follow 2,000 people and sift through Twitter every day, but, allocate maybe, half-hour block, twice a day, morning and night or something, to go through, read through tweets, read through some information and take notes, and you'll find what you gravitate towards. And that's kind of a good way, I think, to start out your Twitter journey. And then you can start thinking about, okay, well, what would I like to write about? What would I like to put out there? Because once you've seen what other people, are posting, what resonates with you, then you can start forming your own kind of niche that you would like to pursue. So yeah, it's definitely a great idea to start off a passive account and grow it.
So what can you get as a benefit from looking at Twitter and doing that blocked time that you mentioned, let's say 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, as opposed to just simply saying, I don't know about this, about crypto. I'm going to do my own dedicated research, read up the white paper, go online, really dive in deep. What is the benefit of, instead of having that dedicated focus learning, to going to more of the Twitter side and spending a little time there?
Yeah, I think the benefit of Twitter is that a lot of people have already done that. I guess there's a trade-off as well. So it's really hard because you don't want to get too much, I guess, confirmation type bias. Obviously, people gravitate towards their thoughts as well. So you want to balance it out with a bit of both. But Twitter is a way to save a huge amount of time and research as well, because you can find people that are focusing on specific bits of research, and they're putting out content about a specific project. Maybe you're really interested in, like a Arbitrum or a layer 2, and there's an account that's just focused on providing that sort of detail. You can follow them and probably, they probably spend 8 hours researching a project and condense it into a 5-minute thread. Perfect. You can save a huge amount of time.
Dang.
But I also do think it's great to dive into the detail as well. So I'm probably going to contradict myself a little bit. Twitter will kind of condense all the information into a thread, but a lot of information is left out. So you do still need to get into that detail as well. If you're, read the white papers, read up on the team, read up on the project. But Twitter's a great place to start, even just to find what people are talking about, what projects are really being talked about, popular, and then you can dive into the detail potentially if you really like that project, to do your own research. Always say to people, don't trust people on the internet. You've got to do your own research, right?
Exactly.
and be confident in it. So
don't even trust us. Don't even trust us. Assume that we're completely wrong. So do your own. Yeah,
exactly. But another value that I'd like to provide is helping people to be able to research and provide my techniques, because that, like they say, teach someone to fish and they'll never go hungry type approach. So Twitter's a great place to start, but I definitely recommend doing detailed research on top of that as well, in particular projects that you really like.
So let's say you put in a lot of time to research, you got your notes all ready to go. What is your strategy in order to write up the thread? Because sometimes I struggle with writing because I can type extremely fast, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the reader is fully enjoying it. I found that being on camera, bringing that upbeat vibe, that really helps out, and being able to ask direct questions such as what I'm doing with you right now, that is one of my strengths. But you just mentioned that writing was one of your strengths. So can you help me understand your process and how you're able to go through that?
Yeah, I think I usually start out my process. I kind of like to just start out with the white paper, start out with the pure raw information, and then write all my thoughts down very roughly into a Word document, and just a bit of a brain dump on the project. And then I'll try and make some structure around it. So, okay, how am I gonna how am I going to provide a hook at the start? What's a really interesting kind of way to frame the thread, so to get people in. And then I like to structure the thread, 5 or 6 kind of subsections almost. So I'll write the subsections and then I'll try and just start writing basically. And it's a bit of a refinement process. So you write a really rough paragraph first, rough draft, and then you go through and you'll refine it each time, read it back to yourself, and then often I find I'll come back the next day and I'll just completely change the structure, because you think differently and you have time to process it a bit more as well. So that's usually my process. It's fairly straightforward. I do, sometimes get writer's block as well, where you just can't really think, and that's definitely natural for sure. So it's good just to, if you get into that place where you're just feeling like you can't put words down, go for a walk or something, or go play with your dog, or go for a run, or whatever you like to do. And then often I find I come back refreshed from it, and everything just pours out of me. It's like you kind of just like uncork the champagne bottle and it all starts pouring out. So yeah, don't feel like you have to always be able to produce when you sit down, because sometimes it takes a while to process what you're thinking about as well.
Now, with your writing, did you just learn the skills that you have from school and then you apply it here, or did you take extra time to research other people who've written on Twitter or on different platforms?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I haven't done any specific, studies or research on writing, but I've definitely taken a lot from people on Twitter, in terms of their writing style, and morphed it into my own. But yeah, I think, naturally I'm probably more of I'm not someone that's more of a creative type, so I'm more of an analytical thinker. So I think that's why I've gravitated towards more the research type stuff, because I can process information and help simplify it as much as possible and put it into a bit of a readable kind of format. But definitely there's some great Twitter, some great people on Twitter that have really sort of distinct writing styles, that are good to read through and see how they structure things. It's a very funny. When I first started, it was quite hard to get into the rhythm of writing threads, because I felt like I was just waffling on too much with my. I was writing too much, because in people's attention, especially on Twitter, is very, you've got a very short amount of time before they'll scroll on. So it's a different style to anything I've kind of written before, but you have to really look through, and often in my review process, I'll just cut huge chunks out of sentences just to make it more concise, which, typically when you write, you wouldn't do. You try and make it flow really nicely, but I think with Twitter, for me especially, it helps to make it a lot more concise. And I'm thinking about, I've started up a Substack as well just recently, so I can post some more longer form stuff, just so I can do that, just the free flowing, article rather than a thread, because I think a thread is almost just like a really short and sharp kind of summary. Whereas if you want to write a really nice long kind of article, go into super detail, Substack or Medium or that kind of place is also really great. So I'm keen to pursue that a little bit more. I'm putting some of my longer form sort of threads on Substack as a start, but I'll definitely look at potentially either providing a newsletter or some sort of longer form articles. I'm not sure exactly how that will look, but yeah, definitely watch this space.
So a lot of people use metrics, especially on YouTube and Twitter, in order to get feedback as to, does the audience like this? What could be done differently? Do you do the same thing with your tweets? Do you look at it and say, oh man, I thought this was amazing, but based on the interaction, this really sucked? And then you have to dissect exactly what happened and what you can do better?
Yeah, for sure. I think it can be pretty, it's sometimes I'll have an idea and I think, wow, this is going to be a great thread. I'm so excited. I'm going to get heaps of engagement. And then I'll put it out there and it'll be like crickets. I'm like, oh, okay. maybe people didn't actually really like that. But and then sometimes it's the opposite. You'll write something and you won't think, oh, that's really going to resonate, but it actually does. So it's really hard to know, but it is a good activity for sure to keep an eye on what really drives the engagement and what posts that you do are really successful, because you want to focus on that. I love I can't remember, I think it's the Pareto rule, the 80-20. Focus on the 20% that gives you the 80% gains. So that's such a powerful kind of tool to go, okay, of my posts, what 20% are giving me 80% of my followers? And then if you focus in on that, you can really, you can just keep amplifying and just focusing on what works. For sure, that's a great technique. And then you'll find quite quickly what people really want to see.
Do you have some examples of things that you discovered simply by looking at the metrics? You go, oh, if I post up a 50 tweet thread, which I think that can't even happen, right? It's like 30 limit, but we'll just go with it. That you have 50 tweet thread, people are like, oh, I'm scrolling off this, and started off with like 100 likes and then went down to 50 and then 25. And at the end, nobody even liked the end. Do you have any examples then?
I think probably my most popular thread was one about layer twos earlier in the year, which, I initially didn't expect for sure, because it kind of went a bit viral. But I think for me, it was, looking back, it's because there was such hype, and it was probably in August or July where the layer twos was starting to really get some momentum, like Arbitrum optimism. So it's the timing as well as the content. And I think I was probably just lucky that the timing was good, that it really went well. And then other threads potentially haven't hit the mark, where it's not really getting people interested. And I think I found definitely that I need to focus probably 70 to 80% on the crypto sort of tweets rather than the macro, because I think crypto tweets for sure get more engagement than the macro specifically. But yeah, I think there's a couple of examples, and definitely long threads can sometimes be hard to get engagement on. People by the end are probably not really reading through, so try and keep it to like your 25, sort of 30 max, I think. Yeah.
So the main thing that I picked up was, number one, sometimes you just get lucky because you nailed the trend when it's happening.
Yep.
So that's always a good part. And then number two is sometimes the topic itself. So you looked at Pareto's law, the 80-20. So then you notice that, hey, when I actually talk about crypto, you get a lot more engagement as opposed to just talking about the macro. So it's a natural, more of a focus on that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yep.
Do you think that more people are interested in the deep dives of crypto projects because a lot of people that are on Twitter have spent so much time researching that they pretty much know the basics, and they're just hungry for that new information, the new advancement in the space?
Yeah, I think definitely, like, people are looking, especially at the moment, looking for what projects are going to be the real leaders in the next bull run. So that's a real focus. I feel that people are looking at using this time where there's a bit less hype to actually dive into some research, look at the projects which are still building and still thriving despite the bad market conditions. And people at the end of the day, we're on Twitter to educate, but we're also on Twitter to make money as well. So people want to try and find the alpha and find that next project, which is going to be 10x or 50x or whatever. So yeah, for sure, that's where a lot of the attention is.
Do you think that Twitter has the ability to be the main hub for videos regarding crypto? Because right now it's YouTube, but now with Elon Musk taking over Twitter, and you see certain things talking about maybe he wants to change up the ad revenue and the videos, etc. Do you see that perhaps if Twitter can make some changes, that now Twitter can take over the video section for crypto?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think so. I think YouTube will still for sure be the number one for video. I feel like it's so hard to shift that, for Twitter to take that market share from YouTube would be quite difficult. It would be a massive opportunity for them if they could, but I still love YouTube because it's just it's such a different medium. And like you said earlier, you're able to ask more direct questions and have this type of content on there, which you can't really capture in writing. So I also love YouTube as well as a resource. So I feel like it will still kind of stay that way, where there'll be both. But you never know what Elon, he's always got his crazy ideas, doesn't he? So yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens over the next 12 months and what changes he potentially will make. Yeah, I still see YouTube as being the big video service.
But let me ask you this then. So if a lot of people are going to Twitter, they see a lot of information about the crypto stuff. They see, oh, Jake's got a new thread going on, da da da. But then it would be possible that you just append a video somewhere saying, oh, by the way, here's my quick summary as to this thread. And you give that verbal along with the written, and now it's a one-stop shop where it's in Twitter. And no longer do you need to click on an extra link to go to YouTube, which I guess is pretty well integrated into Twitter right now, right? Because you can just see the video, click, and it plays. But at the same time, there could be a little bit more of an integration that makes it a one-stop shop.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a massive opportunity, actually, because, I find myself, if I'm on Twitter, I usually don't click on the links and watch the YouTube videos. But if it was actually embedded like a short, 30-second or a minute into the thread, that would create some great engagement because, people tend to just keep scrolling. But if they'll see a video pop up, they'll watch it. It's that action to click on the link that I find myself doing that, where I don't actually click on the YouTube link. I don't know whether it's just like a bit slightly laziness, but for sure, if there's embedded videos, appended to the thread, it would be great. And I think we're seeing that for sure with YouTube with the shorts. We're trying to get the attention of, it's almost like TikTok's taken off, obviously, the last few years with that short form. Our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, so people just want to, see the shortest, amount possible, which sometimes good and bad, but yeah, it's interesting to see how it forms.
It sounds like when you're on Twitter, you are focused on Twitter. You're just there to read, and anything that distracts you and pushes you to a different platform, you don't want it. Because I notice that when I click on a YouTube video, it's not that, oh, I'm done with this YouTube video. I'm going back to Twitter where I was in this thread and resuming my scrolling. Nuh-uh. If I get taken with a video, all of a sudden I'm like, well, what are these YouTube shorts? What are these suggested videos? And you forget where you even came from. And you're like, what, wasn't I just on Twitter? Sure. So seems like you were able to identify that. And you say, I'm not even going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I have different kind of not dedicated time slots, but I'll try and, sit down and have a list of YouTube videos that I want to watch and do that when I've got time. Or maybe I'm, a great example, which I've been doing a bit of flying recently, so I'll download a heap of YouTube videos and just watch them on the plane, and that way I've, condensing all so I don't get too distracted, because I feel like you just get dragged in so many different directions. But if you plan it and focus it kind of a bit more and have your videos or threads that you want to read at certain times, batch them up so you can do it all at once rather than getting too distracted. So yeah, for sure, I like to try and keep it separate, but I do dedicate a lot of time to watching YouTube as well, for sure.
So give us a time frame in terms of your week. How much time is dedicated towards researching? How much time is dedicated towards writing, etc.?
Probably try and do, for research, depending on how many threads that I'm looking at doing each week, that probably will take up the majority, especially with, with work as well. So, at least 1 to 2 hours potentially a day, or maybe an hour of research and writing. And then with Twitter, probably 30 minutes to try and write some tweets and do some reading. But yeah, it's definitely hard to juggle with with work as well, depending on how busy I am.
But you're definitely sacrificing your own research time, because you could be doing so much more research if you weren't writing up threads. So the fact that you are giving up time to write up these threads means that you do see the value of bringing that to the audience and also networking that we described earlier.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, I think it is extra time for sure to put it into a thread, but I want to try and give back as much as possible and grow that follower base and grow the brand, because I think the opportunities will come. You know, whatever platform you're on, if you're putting out great content and you're providing good ideas and good research, or whatever your medium is, then the opportunities will come.
Jake, for a last topic, comment, whatever you would like it to be, what can you share with the audience that you would like to tell them direct?
Just if you're looking to get into space or you're already in the space, you know, stick around, because I think there's great things to come. I'm super excited to see, you know, what the next few years will hold in the crypto space. If if you're feeling like you want to quit, just stick it out, because I guarantee that, you know, it'll only take time for the markets to recover, and you know, the good projects and the good people will stick around. So definitely stick it out, and yeah, follow along.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to conclude here. Jake, thank you so much for coming on once again. I will make sure to leave links in the description so you can follow Jake on Twitter. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
See ya.